welcome back. Last time you saw me, I was talking to my friend Artemis about her struggles with her transition. And today I have a good friend, Bérénice here. She is joining us from Paris, France. And she wants to share some things with us that I think will be valuable for all of us. So, Bérénice, take the floor. What would you like to discuss today?
Hi. Okay, so first of all, please forgive my my English mistakes because it's kind of hard for me to switch between languages.
Yeah, I think
Um,
you're doing great.
Thank you. So I've been thinking maybe about ADHD and mostly ADD because that's what I have,
Mhm.
and how to deal with it and how you experience life with ADD, I guess.
Mhm. All right. So when did you come about knowing that you had ADD?
Um, I was officially diagnosed almost a year ago now, I think. Um,
Okay.
and that's a bit weird because honestly, I had no idea that I had ADD. I never questioned it because I had good grades in school and I was paying attention. And I mean, I wasn't the typical ADD kid that you might imagine that's like really loud during class and interrupting and everything. Um, but yeah, I saw a few TikTok videos at first, and I was like, this really speaks to me. But then again, I wasn't sure, and I didn't really know. But then I spoke to a few friends around me, and one of them had ADD and told me that I should probably try to get diagnosed. And so I went to like lots of how do you say it? I went to a psychiatrist basically, and she asked me a bunch of questions, and I came back like for a few sessions, and I had an MRI. I don't know. I did a bunch of tests, and then I was officially diagnosed ADD.
Interesting.
And
I
that was really good.
never knew that they did MRIs for trying to, either rule out or rule in ADD or ADHD.
Yeah, I think it kind of helps because some it shows on some people's brain and it doesn't on other people, but sometimes it can make the diagnosis a lot easier, I guess.
Okay, very nice. I feel like so like I mean, I would have not of I guess from knowing you when I know from our interactions in person, about like 3, 4 years ago, I would say like I wouldn't have pegged you as somebody who has ADD because like you are always
Really?
studying, you're always like super focused on your, curriculums and being on top of your game when it came to studying. Like every time I texted you or something, you were like nose in your book. Um, but I feel like maybe like I feel like when it was came to maybe social interactions, that's maybe where I would maybe be like, okay, maybe I could see it possibly because I think you start to kind of like pop into different you start focusing on one conversation and then someone says something and then you're like, ooh, and then so yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I could see it then, but when it comes to, yeah, like academics, I would say, I mean, from an outside perspective, I mean, I didn't really notice, but I guess it's something that not everyone notices anyways. Um, but yeah, you said that you're taking Ritalin for it now?
Yeah. Um, at first, I didn't really want to medicate for this because, I mean, I like to know what's in my body and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I tried, and like I said to you earlier, it was like suddenly it was quiet, and there were not like 100 thoughts at once, and I could focus on one thing, and there was no music in the background. It's like it gives you some sort of quiet focus that I never got to experience before.
Mhm.
And I don't know, everything is like less overwhelming, I guess, because it's a lot about overstimulation, I guess, ADD, because everything is a distraction, basically.
I think that's a very accurate statement. I would say even for other things like anxiety, like
Yeah,
everything is overstimulating and it just seems like there's so much coming in that you have to process. And I would imagine there's probably actually I would so like I don't have ADD, but I remember at one point when I was having really bad anxiety that my therapist at that time tried to test me for ADD because it's not
oh,
uncommon for women to have displays of anxiety and it actually be a form of ADD or like a symptom of ADD. So usually they can be diagnosed with anxiety, but they really have ADD or vice versa. So I think that's pretty interesting in women. It's more of a problem than I guess for men. But yeah, so it gives you the focus to take Ritalin. You finally feel like you're in a place where, you can take one task at a time
yeah,
instead of like all of these options in front of you. And you're like, I gotta dabble in all of them.
that
Um,
is so true.
yeah. So, because I mean, how do you feel like has there been any negative side effects to taking Ritalin? Because I know my brother, he's taken it in the past and he's had some issues about it.
Hmm. Um, I guess my heartbeat is a lot faster, and sometimes that's a bit annoying. And I stopped coffee entirely because of this, because otherwise I just get like tachycardia, and it's too
Yeah.
much. Um, and lots of energy, sometimes a little bit too much. So I'm trying to, I don't know, I'm trying to really listen to my body and not push it too hard and not take it before I go to sleep. But otherwise, it's been mostly positive because it's like, I don't know, it's like a little bit of help. And I mean, you can develop lots of strategies to prevent your ADHD from interfering with your life, but it's very complicated and it takes time. And in the meantime, if I can have the help of medicines to do this, it's good.
Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of stigma about taking, any kind of medication that helps with any type of mental health issue,
Yeah,
whether it's anxiety, depression, bipolar, what ADD, whatever it is. There's such a stigma about needing to be strong or having control and being able to handle it yourself. But there's like a real necessity for, sometimes we need that extra layer of like being able to get the care that we need, of the extra focus, that little kind of security blanket in a way that we can, um, learn what we need to in the meantime. Because there's a lot of coping strategies, and you can't really learn those coping strategies if you're so overwhelmed. It's almost like it
yeah,
stops you in your tracks and makes it almost impossible to learn any new information. I know for
yeah.
me, I'm sure for you, like if you're feeling overwhelmed with all of this new information coming in, it's probably pretty hard to like attach to one thing and
Hmm.
learn that one thing. So that one coping mechanism that is positive, like, meditation. I would imagine meditation would be a really hard one to do
Yeah.
because you're trying to like get focused on like one thing and like mindfulness and being with your breath and like i'm I'm sure like even with an anxious mind that if you're trying to sit there and let all these feelings and thoughts just kind of like come by, you're probably like instead of like letting it come by
Yeah.
and then letting it go, you're kind of like they're like just running right into your
Exactly.
and
Um,
that would be difficult, I would imagine.
it is. But how I deal with this is that I stopped trying to calm down because I can do this. And I just try to turn this into positive energy to do stuff.
Hmm.
When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, it's too much, but what can I use this extra energy for? And then I don't know, I've started climbing a lot, and I work out now, and it's like all this energy that I had and that people were telling me was a little bit too much. Now I use it for something good. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes me feel better as a person because I always felt like you had so much ambition and so much like energy, and I was like, I can't keep up with her, you know, she because
Oh,
you're like
come on. So
Spider-Man
not true.
climbing on the walls and like, you know, you're always in the mood to be out and doing something and socializing. It seems like you've always like, it's almost like you run on like a Red Bull all the time.
Oh. Well, it can be nice, but it's exhausting sometimes for the people around me. And I often get this. I mean, people tell me, "Oh wow, you're way too intense," or like, "Just stop running around, just calm down, let's just settle down." And it's very difficult for me. It's like there's still a kid in there, and it always wants to run, and that can be that can be a little bit much and makes you seem unprofessional sometimes when you're trying to be in a really professional and serious environment. It's hard for me because I have to really mask and create this entire personality of a quiet person that's really focused on one thing, and
Right.
it's difficult.
I I
And also,
I want to see that as a lawyer. Like you're
oh,
I want to see that would be kind of funny to like if you were in court and you were like trying to, you know, defend somebody, but you were just like all over the place and just like happy and bubbly and you're just like, let's get this going, you guys. Like I think that'd be pretty amazing. People would want to be in the jury box, but you guys don't do juries, do you? You non.
sometimes for criminal cases. But yeah, I still have this debate that whether I should stay myself, even though it means that some people are going to think that I'm weird because having ADD means you're not neurotypical, and it comes off as weird sometimes. Um, and yeah, spending my life putting up a front and being like, okay, there's Bérénice at work, and then I can let myself out after. And it's it's a little bit tricky. I think maybe it's about balance, but I'm still looking for it.
I think it's good in a way. I think we're conditioned to be cautious and to like put our best foot forward, but I think that comes at a cost, and that cost is not being yourself. And sometimes we get so wrapped up in trying to be this perfect version or this more like digestible version for people that it
Mhm.
backfires. It can backfire on us. It can make us feel unloved, unworthy, unhappy, just feel stuck in our lives. And it's a hard, like, it's hard to jump out of that, like societal, like the way society has interject that into our minds. But
Yeah,
I think life is way too short for us to not be ourselves. It's too short for us to put so much more energy into fear of being
yeah,
ourselves. Like, because to think about it, like if you let's say you were being yourself, I think that yeah, you might get some conflict and there might be people that don't like what you're saying or doing or how you're acting, but there's way more energy over a longer period of time being
yeah,
dispersed by you by putting on a mask and trying to put down this actual version of yourself, being your true authentic self. I feel like that is way more exhausting and more
yeah,
consuming on us than if we just jump in and try to be ourselves and let the people that are meant for us be with us, and then the people that aren't, just fuck them, you know.
yeah. That's true.
They have their own stuff they need to like figure out and work on. Those aren't your people, but hopefully even if they aren't your people, they've learned something, and that something is they want to be more like you, they want to be more free like you, and that in a lot of ways pisses people off. I think they're like uncomfortable that someone else is doing the thing they want to do, which is be themselves.
Yeah,
So hopefully that
it,
helps you
it
make.
does. I think it's a really good way to look at it. And it's also very, very true that first of all, it's about their own insecurities, and also that what you said about it being exhausting. I think that's the reason why so many people with ADHD are burned out. And that happened to me, and I was completely apathetic for a few months after my exams a few years ago. And I don't know, it was like I spent years in law school trying to be this perfect student, really focused and giving I don't know, it felt a lot like acting, and yeah, that was exhausting. So that's very, very true.
I think it's just kind of like imagine yourself in the job that you want, and would you rather be stressed out a little bit but being like bubbly and friendly and everyone just wanting to, converse with you and talk with you, or do you want to be the person buttoned up who's like hiding, maybe timid, maybe quiet, who's spending so much time focused on saying the right things at the right time? Like, which of those two people to you sounds like the life you want to live?
That's so true. It's the first one, of course.
So I think
And
we need to put ourselves in different positions and be like, would I rather be myself and own it and people be like, yes, queen, or or do I want to be like, please, I hope I don't offend anybody. I don't want to say the wrong things. Everyone's going to judge me. But you know what? Even when you're doing this, people are judging you, you
that
know?
is so true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you might as well
It's
just break those walls down.
exactly. Yeah, and there's this standard that people should always, like, the cool people are really like collected and quiet and not saying much, and everyone assumes they're smart because they're really they have walls, and I don't have any, but that doesn't make me stupid. And sometimes people assume because I have all of this I don't know, childish energy, I guess. People assume I'm really dumb, and I'm not. But I guess you have to find me.
I mean, can you imagine a dumb person trying to like go through law school? I don't think they would get very far. So you got that credible information for yourself, like to that limiting belief that you're dumb. You can just be like, well, a dumb person wouldn't be able to go to law school, would they? So false
So sweet.
belief. You can take
I
this
will keep
belief
that in mind.
and toss it away.
Exactly. But
Um,
it's
so we were talking about being our authentic selves
yes.
and how that's less energy, maybe more scary in the beginning, but I would
Yeah.
say less energy over a long period of time to just jump out and be yourself instead of putting that mask on every day and trying to be
Yeah.
somebody else every day. That'd be a lot.
That's really true. And it's funny because I read somewhere that people with ADD and people who are on the autistic spectrum have lots of similarities in how they experience life and how their brains process things. And I think it's interesting because they use the term masking for when you're like trying to be socially acceptable. And I can really relate to that because I don't know, it's like trying to spend your life I don't know, constantly trying to fit in and not understanding what the hell is wrong with you, because people always think you're weird even if you're trying your hardest, and it's very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like I think there's a good number of us that can sense that people we're not being fully ourselves and the other person isn't being fully themselves.
Yeah.
You can oftentimes see that in like, two people sitting next to each other that already kind of know each other. Maybe they've been dating or something, but being silent, like sitting next to each other and not saying much, not because they don't
Yeah.
want to say anything, they just don't know what to say, not because they're not interested, but because they're like, if I say this, then this person's going to think I'm weak, or this person's going to think I'm needy, or this person's going to think
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. Whatever we think, they think. And
Yeah.
thinking what other people think they're thinking is a lot of work too.
Yeah. That's very true.
I think
My
we need to stop wasting so much time and energy, I think.
Yeah. And sometimes some assholes are gonna still try and say, "Oh, you're weird," or "What? Why were you saying this or acting this way?" And it's just a good way to only keep the good people in your life, and the rest can just go. It's
Yeah.
not important.
They are on their own journey, and maybe they were supposed to run into you to see what healthy looks like and what being yourself looks like. But that doesn't mean that they're supposed to be a part of your actual timeline for the rest of your life. They just are a little blip of you interjecting some light onto them, but they've got their own growing that they obviously haven't accomplished. But we all are, subject to, the way I think of it is, you can either hide and be judged, or you can be yourself and be judged.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's so true.
Because either way, you're gonna.
Yeah.
So you just have to decide which one seems more up your alley. What do you really care about? What really is important to you? Hopefully,
Yeah.
it's being yourself.
Hmm. And I think we, that's like just, oh my God, this is so hard for me to speak English again.
No, you're
Okay,
doing great.
so like you said, people can always tell when you're not being yourself. It's like when you have a gut feeling about someone, I mean, you could be excellent at pretending and they're still gonna feel like something is off. So unless you're 100% yourself, people are gonna see straight through you. So might
Yeah.
as well be yourself.
And I think that, it's I think for a lot of us that, I think everyone has their own traumas. I'm kind of segueing a little bit, but I think it
Yeah. No,
pertains to
that's
this.
true.
But a lot of us have gone through some form of trauma, in different degrees and variations. Some of us way more than others, and some of us just enough to kind of get a little idea of what that feels like. Um,
Yeah.
but I've been around some individuals in the last year that, have endured some trauma, and in because that happened to them, they're unable to be themselves out of protection, not necessarily out of like them being afraid of being themselves. I don't think that's the case. I think it's afraid of the other person harming them. And
Yeah.
that is unfortunate, because that's true for being vulnerable. Even if you haven't faced traumas, you're still opening yourself up to being attacked or being judged or rejected. But to have that trauma behind you, like really strongly, like that, it's really hard, because I want to tell those people, like, you can trust me or you can trust so and so, but they trusted somebody else, and that person
Yeah.
did them really dirty, and that's why they are the way they are. And unfortunately, those people wear the thickest masks, um,
Hmm.
not because they want to, but because that's their survival. And
Yeah.
it's sad, it's unfortunate that, especially when there's good people around them that just want to be like, it's okay, let's just take that mask off. Everything's going to be fine.
Mhm.
Put it right here if you want it. But for now, let's just take it off.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's difficult. So I just want to say that, because people watching are probably going to be like, it's not that easy. You can't just
Hmm.
be yourself, because there's cases, sure, where trauma, I think it's mostly with trauma victims, um, that it would be problematic. It would be harder, a lot harder. But I hope for those individuals watching that they take the necessary steps to get professional help because you deserve a life worth living and experiencing all the wonderful things that life has to offer. So get the help you need because there's beautiful people waiting to help you. So,
That's so true. And my therapist told me something that is very true. It's that your brain doesn't care about you being happy. It cares about you being alive. And so it will always make sure that it keeps you safe. And I think that's why, for instance, I was really bullied when I was in high school and before that even. And for years, it was really hard for me to be myself or to just interact with people. And I think therapy has really, really helped in that way because it shows you that the emotions you're experiencing are not actual emotion. They're just like an echo of the past. And once you learn the difference and you really feel it, you can start to trust again. And somehow everything feels a lot safer and you can become a little bit happier by practicing this.
I think that's very, very true. I actually had posted a reel earlier this week saying, that facing our fears is actually going to make our comfort zone a lot bigger. And
Yeah,
as uncomfortable as stepping out of our bubble is, I don't want my bubble to be, I'm greedy. I don't want my bubble to be this big. I want it to be this big, so like I'm going to just inch out until that bubble is huge, but in order to do that, you got to face your fears here and there in order to make your comfort zone bigger.
yeah,
But no one wants to do that. It's work. It's work and it's uncomfortable work and nobody likes to be uncomfortable. But
yeah,
I feel like we're going to be more uncomfortable in our comfort, which is here, than being uncomfortable over small bits over a long time to have like really the comfort we want. Um,
yeah. That's very true.
it's just kind of like, do you want to put the work in now and do a little bit here and there, or do you want to just like dive in and then just boom, mansion of a comfort zone?
It's very hard. I think you have to take it step by step because it's also good not to create new traumas. And sometimes it's nice to know that you are safe enough to go and to go slowly. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I I hope that a lot of us, you know, don't waste any more time. I feel like
Mm,
that makes me sadder more than anything is when because I do it to myself too. And I think we're all guilty of it. We, say an event comes up and so is going to be there and you don't really like so and so, or there's going to be some people that you think are going to judge you. Maybe you're going to a high school reunion and you used to be bullied, but you're like, I want to go show off that I'm this wonderful person and I deserve to go to this reunion if I want to. But
yeah.
you might be like, no, I don't want to do that because so and so is going to be there and it's just going to bring up these feelings that I don't like. And maybe it's going to remind me of who I am. But at the same time, I feel like if you don't go because you're afraid of feeling those feelings, you already feel them while you're at home.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go do that thing, face that fear, and then you're going to be like, well, screw it. Anyone who's got problems with me, it doesn't matter. I'm showing up. We live in the same world, the same space. And like, I'm not going to feel shitty at home. I'd rather feel shitty for a minute and then everyone just be like, fine. Like, because usually we think the worst outcome,
Yeah.
and usually it's not that bad.
That's true.
Yeah. Because,
And
like,
also,
yeah.
I think the brain, it's always this constant state of fight or flight. And you are facing this decision every freaking second of your life. And most of the time, when you have like at least a little bit of hope, a little bit of energy, you should choose to fight because it's freaking amazing what you can achieve in a really short amount of time if you just make small decisions every day to to fight for yourself. And I think my take on it is not exactly to, I don't know, to say that I'm going to face my fears because it makes me feel like I'm putting myself in danger. It's more of thinking that I'm showing up for myself and for the person that I want to be. And I'm like, okay, future me would love present me to do this, and I'm going to show up. I'm going to be there consistently, and one day it will be easy.
I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, as like, you know, my future self really needs me, present self, to do this in order for us to be that version we want to be. And
Yeah,
put it using that lens to get us through, certain tasks that seem uncomfortable or that we don't want to do. Um, so yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it.
but it's scary. It's not
Right.
easy. It's never easy, but it's very nice because you get results. That's for sure.
Most definitely. I mean, you're not going to get results by staying home and being afraid of what could happen. Like, you got to go see what happens, because usually
Yeah,
it's not going to be the thing you think it is. Usually it's going to be way better than you think it is. Um,
that's very true.
yeah.
I have a good example for this.
Yeah.
Like, when I was in high school, everybody had these New Year parties, and I wasn't invited to any of it because I didn't really have friends back then.
Mhm.
But I really wanted to go out. So I was like, okay, I can just like sit at home and be sad that I wasn't invited and everything. Or I can just go out and have this New Year celebration and we'll see what happens. So I dressed up and I went out to a bar in Paris,
Mhm.
and then I met a bunch of people and they were like, "Oh, you're by yourself, come with us." And then they took me to a big party and it was freaking amazing.
Right.
And that would have never happened if I had just stayed sad about it. So I think sometimes you have to give life a chance to take you somewhere cool because it happens.
I mean, I think it's super easy to get scared. I
Oh
always
yeah.
I always think of, I think I told you about it one day, that like, I think it was in October or something. And Molly and we were heading out to see you. And I think we were going to go to Apple Hill. And
Yeah.
that was like the thing to do during fall, here in Sacramento. And like, I was so anxious on the drive as we got closer and closer to Davis to picking you up. I was actually having like dry heaving. I was like
Oh
almost
no.
throwing up. I
Oh,
wasn't, but I was so nervous to have you in the car with us and to see you
oh,
that I was like sick. And I was like, Carly, you know what? This is really fucking scary. This is, I'm really nervous, but if I flake now, then this won't go anywhere. I have to do this, or else there won't be a friendship or relationship, whatever it is. There won't be anything, because you're going to be like, this girl's flaky, or, she's
um,
whatever. And so, as uncomfortable as that felt, and as uncomfortable as so many other dates before and after that were, I'm glad I stuck through it, because now I know you. And
Yay.
I feel like it would have been such a major loss in life if I had just gone with my comfort zone. And it's not even just about knowing you, like it's helped me face other things now. And like, since my divorce, I've really had to grow to be independent and like do things on my own and not with my partner. And so yeah, it's been it's scary and it's so uncomfortable, but like I feel more comfortable now when I go on a date or when I go to an interview or when I go to, a meetup group or something. Like I'm still anxious, but I'm not as anxious for as long.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you got to
Yay.
do it. You got to do it. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to do it, but I don't want to feel this forever
Yeah.
either. And the only way I cannot feel what I'm feeling right now is to go through it, and it'll be better.
You're really impressive.
Thank you. So are
That's
you.
amazing. High five.
Oh, yeah, no, this life is hard.
It is. It is, but it's so worth it. And it gets easier. It's like muscles. Seriously.
I don't know what muscles are, but I get the concept of what you're trying to tell me. No, yeah, it takes practice. It takes persistence
Mhm.
and discipline. You have to really
Yeah,
want the change in order to make that change.
yeah.
Um,
And to rebuild, I think therapy is freaking amazing because it also helps you to remove everything that's still at the back of your head and limiting you and making you more tired and everything. It's, I don't know. Our brain is always trying to process things that happened to us before, so it doesn't happen again. So unless you work through that in therapy, you can also spend your life wondering why it's so difficult. And that's why I think everyone should go to therapy.
it should be like required.
Yes, yes,
Of course, I want people to have free will, but I feel like that one's probably like necessity. Yeah.
yes.
I'm
Very
worried.
true.
I'm worried when people are like, I don't need therapy. Like, I get it if you don't have the money to do it, but if you're just like, nah, I'm like,
A red flag.
Thank you, Bérénice, for sharing with us. And thank you all for watching and listening to what Bérénice has to say and listening to what I have to say with Bérénice. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the future, hopefully next week. I'm working on getting more interviews, and I hope you learned something. So until next time, bye.